Good evening.
Paris won the Super Cup. Poland says the women's tournament is still on track. Primary polls in America got 2 states wrong in a row.
Taiwan is arming its coast guard with anti-ship missiles.
And in Britain, they are closing asylum hotels and asking again where people should go.
Preparation. And the gap between what we say is ready and what actually is.
Europe's top football clubs faced off in the UEFA Super Cup on Wednesday night. Paris Saint-Germain beat Aston Villa 2-1. The French side had already won the Champions League this season. This victory confirms their position as the continent's strongest team. The Super Cup is an annual match between the winners of Europe's 2 major club competitions. PSG have now held the trophy for another year. France 24 reported this. A Russian naval officer has been killed in an explosion in Crimea. A bomb hidden in a rubbish bin detonated, according to reports from Russia. The deceased was a former Ukrainian Navy official who had defected to Russia. That detail comes from Russian sources. The attack happened in Crimea, the peninsula Russia seized from Ukraine in 2014. Moscow has controlled the territory since then, though most countries still consider it part of Ukraine. No group has claimed responsibility for the bombing. Russian authorities have not confirmed the victim's identity or provided further details about the incident. Independent reported this. Primary election polls are facing serious questions about their accuracy. 2 states just delivered surprising results that the surveys failed to predict. Michigan and Wisconsin both produced upsets in their recent primary contests. The polling misses have put a hot spotlight on the limits of trying to measure voter sentiment before primary day. These races are harder to poll than general elections. The problems aren't new, but back-to-back failures make the issue harder to ignore. Campaigns and voters rely on these numbers to understand where races stand. When the polls miss by wide margins, it raises doubts about their usefulness in the primary season. The Hill reported this. The head of the Metropolitan Police has admitted mistakes were made in the investigation into Simon Levy. But he's defending how officers handled the murder inquiry overall. The Met has faced criticism over the case. Labour MP Jess Phillips is among those who have accused the force of overlooking the first murder that Levy carried out. The admission comes as questions continue about how the investigation was conducted. The Met chief says errors occurred but maintains the broader inquiry was sound. BBC News reported this. A man charged in the killing of a business executive in Manhattan is expected to plead guilty to federal stalking charges. Luigi Mangione faces those charges in federal court in connection with the death. He could still change his mind before entering a plea. Mangione also faces a separate murder trial. That trial is set to begin next month. New York Times reported this.
Luigi Mangione is expected to plead guilty to federal stalking charges in the killing of a health insurance executive in Manhattan.
A separate murder trial begins next month.
Taiwan has armed its coast guard with anti-ship missiles and stepped up naval drills. The aim is to deter Beijing.
Taiwan is arming its coast guard for potential conflict with China. The island is equipping the force with anti-ship missiles and running naval drills as part of the effort. Taipei says the moves are designed to strengthen its defenses and discourage Beijing from taking military action. The Coast Guard has traditionally handled civilian maritime duties rather than combat operations. The build-up marks a shift in how Taiwan is preparing to defend itself. China claims the island as its territory and has not ruled out using force to bring it under its control. The new weapons and training represent an intensification of Taiwan's military preparations. WSJ World reported this. North Korean workers have been getting jobs inside American companies using fake identities. They're using artificial intelligence tools to help them pull it off, and they have accomplices in the United States who are helping them. A year-long investigation has traced how the scheme works. The workers steal real identities to get hired. The money they earn goes back to North Korea. It helps fund Kim Jong-un's regime. American firms have been paying salaries without knowing the workers were based in North Korea. The investigation found the operation relies on technology and people on the ground in America to succeed. WSJ World reported this. Preparations for the Under-20 Women's World Cup are going ahead as planned. Poland, which is hosting the tournament, confirmed that on Tuesday. The competition is set to begin next month. It will be the first FIFA event to take place since global football's governing body faced widespread criticism. The tournament involves women's teams from around the world competing at under-20 level. Polish officials say everything is on track. The World Cup will go ahead despite the controversy surrounding FIFA. Ghanaian Times reported this. A Premier League club is keeping close watch on a Brighton midfielder despite a recent setback. Carlos Baleba remains on their transfer radar even though he's currently injured. The interest hasn't cooled. Brighton signed the young midfielder earlier in the season. He's been making an impression at the Amex Stadium. His injury hasn't put off the club tracking him. The situation suggests Baleba has caught attention beyond the south coast. Transfer interest often reflects a player's potential rather than just current form. His injury appears to be seen as temporary rather than a long-term concern by those watching him. Sky Transfers reported this. More asylum hotels are being shut down across Britain. The closures are forcing people who live in them to move again, often with little notice. Immigration Minister Anatoly announced the latest round of site closures this week. The government says it wants to move asylum seekers out of hotels and into other accommodation. But the reality of where people go next remains unclear. Some are moved to different temporary housing. Others face more upheaval after already being displaced. The debate continues over how Britain should house people waiting for asylum decisions. Turley's announcement adds to a pattern of closures that have affected hundreds of asylum seekers in recent months. Guardian Immigration reported this.